Alright, hello everyone, my name is Shep, welcome back to the Butcher Circus. Today we're going to be watching a match between myself and Luka, and we're going to be playing once again with the Backline Destruction team, and we're going to be facing off against the Kalashnikov Stress team. So it's not something that we've seen in quite a while, and it's definitely quite an interesting team. It just has an insane amount of stress output, and it does have also a very decent amount of disruption between the Occultist and the Abomination. So that might not be the greatest thing against the Backline Destruction team. I mean, not the greatest thing for us, that is, because getting disrupted with both a Flagellant and a Leper isn't too good. So Luka decides to transform and go for the immediate slam on my Flagellant, so I won't be able to make use of the Rain of Sorrows with my Hemlock, which would absolutely destroy the enemy backline, which is our goal, obviously. But after that, I just go for a Revenge, so I can get my damage buffs up, and I just start off with Tentacles here. The Ceiling Spaghetti is going to apply a lot of damage, it's going to apply a lot of stress and a lot of horror, and it's overall great. It doesn't do quite as much as a Hound's Harry crit though, and that's going to start hampering away at our team. And it's really going to start hurting unless I have a way of dealing with it, because with that command buff, as we all know, command buffs equals crits, especially if there's two of them. And between the Hound's Harry and between either the Demon Spool or the Ceiling Spaghetti, my team is going to be absolutely destroyed here. Now, there is one very important thing, actually, there's two important things to mention here, is that Suppressing Fire is really going to hinder Luka's backline, because with the debuff chances, I'm just going to be able to increase the stress they take and also reduce the stress they deal. That's not going to do too much against the Occultist, because his Horror doesn't really care about stress dealt, but it is definitely going to have a great effect against the doggy. He's probably going to go for another Hound's Harry, and you'll see that he won't do as much stress. He still gets a crit, which means that he's still going to do a very decent amount of stress, like that's 17, 27, but it would have been even higher if there wasn't that debuff over there. I'm just going to start off with a Purge now. I cleave half of that A-Bomb's HP, and I push him all the way to the back, so a really good outcome there to get a high roll, and to also get the push. I do have the net, which gives me a higher chance. And the other thing that's very important to mention is my Flagellant, because the problem with Kalashnikov's team is that it has a really hard time against Flagellants. All you have to deal with it is kind of like the Abomination with his Horror, and you have the doggy just spamming Hound's Harry, but since there's the Gauntlet of Absolution, I mean, so you're pretty much immune to a lot of the stress that's being dealt to you, and the only character that can kind of counter the Flagellant is the Occultist with the Weakening Curse, but even then you need a lot of actions to beat him, and you need to be winning like 3-1, so taking down a Flagellant with the Kalashnikov team is not easy. It is really not too easy. There's going to be a D-transform by the enemy Abomination. He's probably just going to move forward after that, and you already saw me hovering over the Demon Spool. You just go for this, right? You just disrupt the Abomination again, you apply some more stress on the enemy Occultist. It's just a guaranteed way to piss off your opponent, and you just take it. That's kind of what the Occultist does. He's a really annoying character with the disruption and the horror he does, and also the Sword Machine heals. Like, he's about as annoying as a character can get. There's going to be a vulnerability hex on our own Leper, and the vulnerability hex reduces dodge. It doesn't reduce damage and prot, so I'm actually quite okay with that. I'm just going to move forward here with my Flagellant. It's the only thing I can do. I still want to keep the Leper in position 1, because he likes Purge, and he likes being as close to the front as possible. So yeah, just move one position forward. There's probably going to be a pull on my Arbalist, or maybe on the Occultist. A pull on my Occultist right now would be very scary, but that's just something we're going to have to deal with. So there's only 12 stress from that Hound's Harry. Normally it would be doing like 15, so that's a pretty decent outcome right there. We're reducing some of the stress that's being dealt. Here we're going to go for a Hew, actually, potentially a misplay on my part. Going for a Purge would have let me keep that Occultist in position 1 where he can't use his Demon Spool, but going for a Purge would also activate the Abomination, so it depends on what you want to do. But of course I was hoping that the Hew would cause a Death's Door on the Occultist, and causing a Death's Door means that he'd be closer to dying, and if we do get this Occultist out of here, our Flagellant's going to be more than fine, because after the Abomination has transformed and used both his transformations, all he can do against the Flagellant is kind of just Manacles and Beastfile. Beastfile is really good, but Manacles sucks. It barely does any damage, and it heals the Flagellant stress, so that's not something you want to do every time. Here I click my Occultist voluntarily down to Death's Door, because I just wasted like 30 stress with that. I just click down to Death's Door, I eat the Horror, and the Masochistic hits himself. That's not too good of a thing to have happen. I think I can go for a Weakening Curse, I can heal myself, or I can move back. how can I be most useful to my team, and how can I let my team start winning this as much as possible? I just think, well, you know what, I'm gonna move back, I'm gonna use Reign of Sorrows finally, I'm gonna make my Flagellant useful. The Occultist has survived 2 death blows here, but that little act out with stress is actually going to cause 2 afflictions, so that's not the greatest outcome, because my opponent definitely took a risk not going for a battle there and going for a retribution instead, because causing 2 afflictions is always great. But since the Occultist just had an act out, and, well, he got the stress anyway. Here we're gonna go for that Reign of Sorrows. We don't have any extra accuracy on this, but the hit chances are still great, and finally that the Flagellant gets slagged. He starts off with a nice crit. So just with that Reign of Sorrows, both the enemy backliners, which were looking like they were in relatively okay shape, are both dropping to death's door in 3 rounds. This Reign of Sorrows is absolutely devastating. There's just going to be a move forward from the Abomination, but not a transformation, which is definitely surprising. I'm just going to respond with a Suppressing Fire, not healing my Occultist once again. I guess I just really don't care about him. I mean, he's already done his use, he's at the store, he's masochistic. He's definitely still an important character. I'd love for him to survive, but he's probably not going to make it. Right now, to kill this Occultist, you either have to go for Beast Smile or a Manacles, which would mean not a transformation. So I don't think my opponent wants to go for that and just decides to slam the Flagellant. Thankfully, it doesn't do enough damage to drop me to Death's Door, which means I don't have to react immediately, and I can just use my Occultist here to go for a Demon's Pull on the enemy Occultist, but that's not going to happen, and I'm really pissed off about it. You can look at the mouse cursor, because a pull right now on the enemy Occultist would drop him to Death's Door. It would apply like 50 horror total because of all the horror I have, and that Occultist would essentially be out of the match. Like, out of the match right there from that pull. But because that didn't happen, it's going to take me a lot more effort to bring him down. There's going to be an Abyssal Artillery that's applying a lot of horror to my characters, and remember that horror is doubly as effective against the Flagellant, because the Gauntlet of Absolution can deal with abilities that deal stress, but it can't deal with horror, because the horror will tick and the Gauntlet of Absolution won't. So it's going to affect the Flagellant just like any character, and his anti-stress trinket won't be just as useful in this. As overpowered as it usually is, right? I'm thinking what I want to do right now, and I'm feeling greedy. I'm gonna go for an Arbalest move, and I'm gonna go for a Suppressing Fire, because I really want to drop the Occultist to Death's Door, and also because I really want to get to an Affliction, so I'm gonna risk a 20% death on my Flagellant. Maybe not the greatest play by me, but I was feeling risky today. I felt like, okay, you know what, screw it. I hate this masochistic Occultist just oofing himself. I think I gotta take a risk here, and I'm just gonna go super aggressive. Definitely would have been better to just click the Flagellant, go redeem, just like bite the bullet and go for that not very effective redeem, because the Arbalest was still almost at full HP before her bleed was actually applied. But here, surprisingly, my opponent doesn't go for the immediate Hound series, so I don't even suffer a Death Sword check, which means I can just go for a redeem, and I'm okay with this. But the Arbalest says no anyway, because that's how the Butcher's Circus works. Here I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna move forward, I'm gonna do something else, but I can't. There's 2 actions before I get to play with my Flagellant again. So 2 actions would mean a 20 and a 35, and if you add those up, that's a 55% chance of killing my Flagellant. I don't want to let that happen. I absolutely don't want to let that happen. The Houndmaster hits himself, which is going to be just enough so he drops the Death's Door next round, so that's a nice outcome. And he's probably going to go for a Hanzari right now, and that's probably going to get an Affliction on my Flash, but no, he goes for the preemptive Lick Wounds. Maybe not the greatest play right there, I'm going to have to say, but, you know, it was his play. I decided to just go for a heal. I could have gone for a Purge to push the Man-at-Arms out of position, but I just think, like, well, I gotta kill this Abomination somehow, and I need to start rolling for those Death Sword checks, and just getting that immediate kill is really important there, because if I didn't, he would de-transform, he would go Absolution, and he'd be chilling, like totally chilling. He'd be alive, he'd be using Beast Smile after a while, and overall that A-Bomb would be just fine, but getting a 25% death blow is just devastating. Now, there's going to be a crit Tentacles on my Arbalest, which is just enough to put her at the HP range, where she bleeds down to Death's Door and dies from a heart attack because of all the horror that's on her. So, getting that crit there was absolutely crucial for my opponent there, just to wipe out the Arbalest. So both of us getting very lucky with the crits and the death blows to just take these characters down. And the thing that I'm most concerned about right now is the fact that my Flagellant is about to go Afflicted, and that he has still a lot of horror on him, and that's obviously not a good thing. Of course, that the Arbos is gonna die anyway. There's gonna be a black check here on my Viper. I'm not too concerned about it because I have Exotic Snuff. But as we all know, Exotic Snuff is a non-trinket. It never works when you want it to work. And the Arbos dying is gonna afflict my Flagellant. It's gonna make him go Rapturous, and I'm gonna eat all the horror instead of having some of it get wasted into me going into Affliction. So overall, like a horrible outcome from that stun, and then the stress from the Arbos dying. And round 5 really wasn't our round. I mean, killing that that Abomination last round definitely still makes this doable for us, but things are not looking too great. I decided just to move forward to position 1 here because I don't think I'm gonna need to use Purge anymore, and just keep the Flagellant in the position where he wants to be. It's gonna be a Vulnerability Hex. That's my Leper almost dead with that. That's a lot of stress. He's still eating Horror. But look at the amount of horror my Flagellant is eating. That's 24. He's almost at heart attack range. That's horrible. And then my Flagellant decides to hit the Leper, right? Decides to hit the Leper for just enough damage that the Houndsary is probably going to kill him. But I just get a crit on the Occultist, and finally he's out of the match. He should have been out of the match ages ago if I had gotten that Demon Spell on him, but now he's finally out. If this Houndsary does at least 1 point of damage, my Leper will die. And it does just enough. It does 1 point of damage and it applies the bleed. Which means that my Leper right now is going to tick to death's door and just have a heart attack and die. Because, I mean, he was looking just fine a minute ago, but he isn't anymore because the Flagellant went Rapturous and decided to do the funny, right? There really is no justice in this world. But here we are with the Flagellant now in a 1v2. Now the Flagellant has one worse situations, but in those situations he wasn't at 180 stress already, just from the sheer amount of horror that was applied. Now I'm going to start going for punishes on that Houndmaster. The thing is, you're going to see me highlighting that Crushed Hemlock. Normally, I prefer running Crimson Hook on my Flagellant, especially when I'm playing stress teams, because it still gives you more DOT, because you just apply your bleeds more consistently, and it also gives you stress stealth, it also gives you crits, so it's much better when you're actually playing a stress team, because your punish is going to do a lot of stress, and if you get a crit on it, it's going to allow you to kill characters at this kind of HP range and stress range a lot more consistently. Thankfully for us, my opponent went for a blackjack and failed this stun, and the Bellow only does 3 stress, so now the match is really going to slow down because the amount of pressure that you can actually output against my Flagellant isn't too big, which is wonderful, right? But we are going to drop the death door soon because of the bleeds, and we are only at 7 HP. Sadly, I wasn't able to use one of my redeems, so that redeem is just going to be gone forever, but I do still have 3 Exsanguinates. I don't have any sort of accuracy buffs apart from being the last character alive, and if I'm at death's door I'll have +5 accuracy too. So I'm gonna try to use both of those to make sure that my Exsanguinate doesn't miss. That doggy is definitely not in a good spot. I'm gonna have to say that the best play right now for Luka would be to guard that doggy, but he decides to go for a Bellow. You see me do a little mouse cursor twirl of happiness as I see that, well, I have just enough stress dealt to kill that doggy right now, even if I failed the death blow. And you might be wondering, well, why didn't he go for guard? He didn't go for guard because he doesn't have the move. I'm gonna hover over it right now. He simply does not have the move. He has Retribution instead, which is a really weird thing, because Retribution is actually really good against the Flagellant at the end of the match, because it means that you can actually win a match. If with Bellow you can't, but with Retribution you can actually win. But usually, if you have a Mana Rush with Retribution, you want to run Shield Spike, because without Shield Spike, his Retribution is an absolute joke. But it can still do something. Here, I have a chance of hitting the corpse or hitting the Mana Arms. I decide to just Exsanguinate the corpse, because that's going to heal me, and that's going to make it so I don't suffer a repulse on that. And I think that's a-okay, because that repulse is absolutely going to tickle, and against 24 HP, I can just drop a punish, and the Mana Arms will immediately drop to Death's Door after a couple rounds. So I'm just going to have to play around a little bit, wait for him to drop to Death's Door, and I'm still going to have to Exsanguinate, so my healing skills will come back, and I think I'm in a prime position to just take this match. But that repulse, it does 11 somehow. I have no idea how you roll for an 11 without the shield spike. It's just absolutely outrageous how you actually get it to roll that high. But I'm still at 11 HP, so it's not the end of the world. There's going to be another Retribution, once again clearing my stress, so it is pretty much confirmed that I'm not going to die to a heart attack right now. this match at least, and now the man-at-arms sticks down to their store because of the police now he had to fight, so this is a nice situation. He's gonna start using command, and here we're gonna get into kind of a weird spot where I don't really want to hit him with punish, because I can drop to their store, but I really don't want to hit him with exsanguinate, because I feel like it's maybe a little unnecessary. I might go for it, I might not. We're gonna have to wait and see. And what I decide to do here is I'm just gonna decide to pass. I'm gonna wait out those Bell debuffs that I had on me, I suppose. And with the pass, it means that if he wants to hit me, he's gonna be healing my stress. So if we do this like endlessly, I'm gonna win essentially, because I heal 10 stress, and with the pass I only take 9. I only take 5, I mean. So I'm healing more stress than what I'm taking, but of course, the silly shepherd doggy is not gonna wait it out that long, because I don't feel like I have that much time. So I'm just gonna risk it. I'm gonna go for an exsanguinate. I miss a 90% hit chance on the exsanguinate. I didn't even know there was a miss chance. And I eat a repulse crit for 10, which means I'm now on death's door. I'm 1 exsanguinate down. I have minus healing skills, and the man-at-arms can get a kill right now. And even if he doesn't get the kill, if I want to hit him again to heal myself, I'm gonna suffer another death sword check. So an absolute pivotal exsanguinate right there, almost losing me the match on the spot. I'm gonna use my final exsanguinate. I hit the man-at-arms, I don't die, and I don't die from that repulse somehow, surprisingly, you know. Never punished, Shepherd Doggy never punished. There is no justice in this world. Going for the risky 90% chance. Come on, how could you, Shep? How could you go for such a chancy play against a character that has 5 dodge? What else could you do, right? Here the Rapturous Flagellant just decides to hit the man-at-arms, because Rapturous has a chance of just doing whatever move he wants, and if you only have 1 move left against 1 character left, then that move is also what's going to happen. So we just do a punish there, and right now, I mean, the repulse barely tickled us, Retribution barely tickles us, and now there's going to be another punish. Not quite dead yet, but we eat a repulse for it. But I'm gonna have to say this is not looking good for Luka. Absolutely not looking good, because the Flagellant doesn't have any more healing skills, but we are way up on death blow resistance, we are way up on HP, and we get to go first right now and roll for that death blow. And I'm gonna roll for it, 95 and a 60, and we are gonna take the W. So that moment there with the 90% hit chance exsanguinate was definitely a misplay. You should wait until you're at death's door and then go for the exsanguinate, so you have the +5 accuracy. But then again, if I waited until I dropped to death's door, Rapturous could have just hit himself. So I thought, like, come on, I'm winning this match so decisively. I can just drop an exsanguinate right now. Even if he drops even to death's door, I'll heal back up again and I'll be fine. But not if you miss, Shep. Not if you miss. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the match, and I'll see you again another time. Cheers.